happen. What has transpired here at the First Bank Center here in Denver, Colorado? It wasn't just a big night of fights. It was a big night of memorable moments.
Conor McGregor with us here in Denver, Colorado. Left hand from Rockhold. Right hand, right back from Mike Perry. Can I get a face-off with Conor McGregor, man?
It's an incredible setup here, incredible matchmaking, incredible storytelling. Oh, you had to come here. All these fighters that step in here are warriors, and all have my respect. And I'm into this game, yeah. We'll be into this, yeah.
And we are live here in the Maverick Center here in Salt Lake City. What a night. It is going to be historic indeed for BKFC 56.
Whoever's the king of violence right here, this is going to be a great fight. Perry on the top. Right hand from Mike Perry. Double check. Who's the king of violence? I am!
Combat fighting in its purest form, bare knuckle fighting in the city of angels.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
He's now an owner of BKFC with us, and we're going to take this motherfucking thing all the way to the top now.
Welcome to hour number 3, live right here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid. He is Donnie right side. I am Ben Stevens. Feel a little bit lonely now, DRS. Obviously, we are rocking back and forth, but great to have Casey here in that last half hour of our second hour on the show. Great to have her here as a part of the SportsGrid network. Some very exciting things in store for this football season. And it is football season as it's August 1st. An NFL game will be played tonight. It's the first preseason game of the year, the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio, between the Chicago Bears and the Houston Texans. Plenty of Hall of Fame game handicaps and breakdowns and everything you need to know, including the new NFL kickoff rule in the entirety of this third and final hour. We'll have some MLB breakdowns, a short 5-game slate on this Thursday in MLB, but a ton to get to here with 1 hour still to go.
No, certainly. It's nice because, it is a Thursday, so technically a football Thursday. The football Fridays really start to kick off in a few weeks here, and away we go into the football season. But there are some things, I should say, that we still need to talk about Major League Baseball-wise. Not a huge slate today, but enough there and enough good environments where I do think we could pick up some dollars. But more importantly, it does seem like a rite of passage here. I always talk about July the 1st, Ben, as being that's when football officially kicks off for me because we know NFL teams head to training camp. We get to see it. We get to ramp up the coverage. But August, the college football kids now head into their camps as well. But more importantly, you get to see football on your TV. And we don't have to wait. Hey, August 5th, August 6th. August 1st. We're getting that preseason game right on our TV tonight. It feels like it's the coronation and it's ready. And honestly, savor this moment here because we do this so many times. Preseason is here now. It's August 1st. Before you can blink, we'll be talking about Super Bowl Sunday. We're going to talk about week 0 in college football coming up. Before you can blink, you're talking about, only 1 or 2 weeks left in the season as we're into November. It goes so fast during football season. Sometimes you got to just sit back and savor it for just a little bit.
We are just over 3 weeks away. That's 23 exact days from the very first day of the 2024 college football season, the Dublin debut over in Ireland between Florida State and Georgia Tech. That's week 0. It's a smaller slate this year, but it's still a great slate. Then it's the first full weekend of college football after that, followed by the first full weekend of the National Football League right after that as well. Donnie is right. And it's still summertime. So savor it. Get out to the beach. Get out to the pool. Enjoy your backyard barbecues and all of that. But look forward to a football season on the horizon as well. Maybe you're not watching all that much preseason football. Maybe you're not even all that interested in the Hall of Fame game tonight. You should be. Football's back on your television screen. That is always a great and ceremonious thing. But how much preseason football do you all there plan on watching? That was the question in Fade the Public. At SportsGrid on Twitter, how much preseason football do you plan to watch? A lot? A little? None. I'm glad to be fading the public. I voted for a lot, but I'm a part of the minority. Only 17% of these votes on a lot. A little, the runaway winner with nearly 55% of the vote. Public, I'm mad at you. Public, I have lost a little bit of faith in you. You don't have to watch every preseason game. You don't have to have it on even for your favorite team. But you have so many ways of consuming preseason football. And yeah, it's preseason. And yeah, the results don't really matter in terms of the final score. But the games are significant. They decide roster spots on your roster and for your favorite team, or maybe one you have wagered on that could make all the difference throughout a 2024 NFL season. A disappointing result on a day there should only be optimism around the pigskin.
And here's what I say about this poll, because there's three options: a lot, a little, and none. And I like to say 27.7% of the public who voted for none, they're liars. That's not the case here.
Liars.
There's no way, shape, or form that if you like football, you are not going to watch. And really, a little just means, hey, my favorite team is playing tonight in the second preseason game. I just want to get a look at that starting lineup on offense and defense. Let me tune in for the first quarter. Everybody is doing that. There's nobody out here that goes, you know what? I'm a big Bears fan. I refuse to watch preseason football at this point. Or even if you're one of the worst teams in the NFL, let's just say the Carolina Panthers will do numbers in the preseason because we're excited that it's a new coach and maybe our quarterback that we drafted number one can get it together. There's nobody. I can't even believe. I think the haters just showed up and put none. There is no way, shape, or form that you like football and you're not going to watch at least a quarter of football, not on your favorite team, just a quarter's worth of preseason football over the next month. It ain't happening. I'm the biggest hater of all time in many aspects, Ben. Even I will be watching preseason football. So I voted for a little with the 55%.
I wish that we could track down all of the votes that make up the nearly 28% that said none, and we could see where they are around the globe. And if I even see them turn on their television to consume a play of preseason football, they donate $5 to us. That should be the bare minimum. Because when you say none, that means zero. That means absolutely zilch.
Yes.
Nada. Nothing. I don't believe any of you. I do not believe. And listen, Hollywood Hernandez replied to the poll. Sure, he's a nice guy. I don't know him. If you voted a lot, ... call the number. Oh, like we can't profit off of NFL preseason football? Like when they hang a money line on the Baltimore Ravens for week number 1, I'm not hammering that or fading that? Like we can't bet the over of 31.5 tonight, knowing that Tyson Bagent and Davis Mills are going to battle it out to at least get us 32 points?
By the way, let's get back to the poll itself here. Can we put that up on the screen? Do we have the graphic for the poll itself? I would like to get that up. Okay. SportsGrid, at SportsGrid. Fantastic. Love it. You should be following, of course. It says a lot, a little, and none. You focus on that. But take a look at the hashtags there, Ben. What's off? What's a little bit off on those hashtags? Can you lead me down there?
I know exactly what you're...
So NFL
hashtag NFL
preseason
X.
NFL. Yep.
That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Keep going.
That's NFL
that's
Twitter.
fine.
We get that. Hashtag football. And if you're looking at it, there is an emoji, but it's not a football player. It's not Caleb Williams. It's not a Chicago Bear.
No.
It's not C.J. Stroud. It's not a Houston Texan. Donnie, what is it?
I think it's Ronaldo down there, apparently, at this one, this
I
hashtag
think so.
at this point. But you know what? Look, I like to give the people behind the scenes a lot of credit for this. Because you know what? You know what I think happened here? Smart move. You are bringing the football crowd just for views and votes here. And maybe, Ben, That's why the nun is showing up with 28%. The true footballers of the world are going, I'm not watching a damn thing from this sport here. So there you go. Maybe a cross-reference that we didn't anticipate. We are getting junk voted here because true soccer fans / football fans are voting no because they're only going to watch football as opposed to American football. There you go. Figured it out.
I think that's a really good point because hashtag football brings up the emoji, and that hashtag is tied in to the largest international sporting competition that we have, the Olympic Games. It is the hashtag used by the Paris Olympiad for their football, what we call soccer. That you're right. That's it, Donnie. That's it.
We
That's
figured
why
it
the
out.
books are being cooked right now. Yeah.
What we should do is immediately take this poll down, keep this set aside, save this exact same poll for tomorrow, and hashtag it with NFLX and maybe NFL preseason and see if those numbers do change. I think they will.
I mean, listen, that's all we can ask for. We know our guy, Jordan Penseal, he is going to be watching some football. He just tweeted at us, DRS. We watching some preseason football. Believe that! Exclamation point, hashtag TEL. That can only mean one thing. See what the hashtags under TEL actually lead us to. Don't sell your Telecoin. Telecoin.
Ooh, what's that?
We don't get into crypto here. Crypto. I think Lisi's got some Telecoin, if I'm not mistaken.
Crypto play tonight for Joe Lisi. By the way, shout out Jordan out there. Probably working hard on a roof somewhere out there on the West Coast. So shout him out there.
Hell yeah, Jordan.
Putting good work.
He wants over, by the way, 31.5. Could not agree more, Jordan. 16.89% average APR on Telcoin. Good month of July. Now it's August. Daily basis next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead if they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup? What you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
However many units are on the line, however many people, however many cocktails, like it's a perfect scorecard. And someone questioned him on one hole. He's like, well, one thing I never get wrong is the scorecard. And then we're on like 13 and he's added up and he's like, this is wrong.
I looked back from number 13 and I'm like, I'm missing $140 somewhere. I don't know where I'm missing it. And I'm looking back and I'm like, no, it doesn't match up on 11. And I got to track it back to like number 7.
Only on SportsGrid.
After a full Wednesday slate in Major League Baseball and a shorter slate on this Thursday, a good time to reset here as we touch them all as always. Craig Mish joins us on this Thursday on the early line. He is our MLB insider. He is the host of Newswire starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and he's a Hall of Fame game handicapper, that is for sure. Craig Mish, thank you for joining us here on this Thursday on TEL.
No, thanks for having me, guys. I, just got off my app and bought some Telcoin, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's a good guy. That's a guy that loves the brand, loves the award-winning segments that we have. Craig, you know what time it is right now. As we go all around, all four of those bags, it's time for the Daily Basis. So we start with the National League Cy Young race. Chris Sale yesterday, solid outing for Atlanta. Did not earn the win, but the Braves took the rubber match and the series from the Milwaukee Brewers 6-2. Chris Sale right now in his debut season in Atlanta, -110, a slight odds-on favorite in minus money to win the National League Cy Young Award. Paul Skeens, not all that far behind. Zach Wheeler, third best number at +270. Craig, how competitive is the race over these final 2 months of the regular season going to be for that NL Cy Young hardware?
Yeah, I think it's going to be right down to the wire with this one. As we talked about last week on the show, I was skeptical a month ago that Paul Skeens could potentially win Rookie of the Year and Cy Young, but he is very much in the mix. What it feels like is that after every pitching performance that one of these guys has, the odds change significantly. And I would say the one name on that list that we need to really pay closer attention to at this point, and even though he's probably fourth in the running, and I think it's appropriately that FanDuel has it, I'm not sure that the pricing is, and that's Dylan Cease. I mean, let's just call it what it is. The Padres are playing great baseball. They've upgraded their bullpen. Wins are going to come more frequently, I think, for him. So while I do think it is appropriate that the three names that you see there on your screen are ahead of him, I got to make this a four-player race at this point. I got Cease in the mix.
Yeah, it's fantastic to watch it come down the stretch here, Craig, particularly to see how the, voters deem Paul Skeens. Because if he's phenomenal down the stretch, it's hard to deny him. But I wonder if there's going to be some detractors that'll say, well, I didn't pitch the full season, and a couple other guys did, so certainly something to watch. One of those guys that we usually see in the top 4, top 5 in the Cy Young, that's Clayton Kershaw. We had a streak come to an end yesterday, which I don't know how many people actually were paying attention to it, but when you see it, 423 regular season starts with at least one strikeout ended yesterday. 423 for Kershaw, Tom Seaver with 411, and Nolan Ryan with 382. That is absolutely incredible for that streak to last that long.
Yeah, and those other two guys, arguably two of the top 5 pitchers in the history of baseball, maybe even less than that. Kershaw is just not going to be who he was previously, and I think that he probably privately would acknowledge that. But that's not what the Dodgers are looking for. They're looking for throwing 5 innings, quality starts, and just basically starting one game in the postseason out of every 5 or every 7. So I think people just have to remember that Kershaw has been out for the majority of the season. I believe he's only made 2 starts or 3, whatever that one was. Certainly he could pick things up as the season goes on. But, Donnie, I just don't think you're going to see 7 innings, 12 strikeouts from Kershaw again, like we did pretty consistently for about a decade.
Year number 16 in Major League Baseball, all in Los Angeles, but how much juice is left in the tank? Might even be year 17. I've lost track at this point. What is 17, Craig? That's the amount of losses in a row for the Chicago White Sox. The franchise streak extends for Chicago. They dropped their 17th straight game yesterday at home to the Royals, losing big 10-3. Now, the longest ever Major League Baseball losing streak happened way back in 1889. The Louisville Colonels lost 26 consecutive games. The longest losing streak since the year 1900, that was the Phils in 1961, losing 23 consecutive games. The longest losing skids in MLB in this millennium since the year 2000. 2 teams have dropped 19 games in a row. The Royals in 2005, the Orioles back in 2021. Do the White Sox have a legitimate chance of making history in Major League Baseball? And that poor component maybe matching the longest losing skid of 19 straight that we have seen since 2000?
It's possible. It's possible. I remember when I think it was the 88 Orioles, Ben, opened up with, I don't know how many losses in a row to begin the season. To me, that's the one that sticks
21.
out the most. Yeah, so that season, imagine opening up a Major League Baseball season with your fans and losing the first 21 games of the year. That's just unheard of. Look, White Sox fans at this point, they kind of know what they're up against. They know the team's going to be bad for a long time. They certainly could keep losing. But the one thing that I see a lot, Ben, that I want to clarify here on social media and for everyone else, for people who say that the White Sox are tanking to get the number 1 overall pick in the draft, folks, they are not eligible to get the number 1 pick because under the new CBA rules, that market, the Chicago market, is not eligible. I know it sounds crazy, but they're not losing on purpose. At the end of the season, if they have the worst record in baseball, the best they can draft, I believe, is 12th or 13th. So that is just not true. So stop with that. The first pick is going to go to Colorado or Miami or one of those teams at the bottom there. Those teams are eligible. So if the White Sox keep losing, Ben, it is not because they're trying to. It's just because they stink. There's going to be massive changes going on there in the offseason. Pedro Grifol, a good guy without a doubt. He is, in all likelihood, not going to be. You can't lose this much and be the manager of a Major League Baseball team next season. So get ready for that coming in September. I don't even know that he'll make it through the year.
Home runs. Jackson Holiday yesterday hit his first in which one? A grand slam. And also, that thing almost hit the warehouse at Camden Yards yesterday. Let me ask you this question, Craig. Holiday, obviously the number 1 pick in 2022. Is he have a chance to make the postseason roster for the Orioles this season?
Yes, and especially considering Jordan Westburg got hurt yesterday, and he's going to be out for an extended period of time. I think there's a chance. Holiday almost hit a second home run, by the way, in that game. I'm so happy to see him performing well. You hate to see a 20-year-old kid thrust into the spotlight and struggle like he did initially, but now he's back. He'll be great, and guys will be talking about his brother Ethan Holiday very soon. Equivalent as far as talent. I mean, Matt Holiday.
Wow.
What do they got going on in Oklahoma? I don't know with Matt Holiday, but great stuff there.
Good genes. Good genes for the Holiday family. There's no doubt about it. Craig Mish, we appreciate the time. We'll tune into Newswire starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time. See you tomorrow. No, well, I guess we'll probably see you next week. We'll go
Under
around
30
the
and a
Olympic
half.
primer.
Under 30.
Craig.
Under 30 and a half. Pound it.
Wow.
Pound it.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching him, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup? What you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, Skeens doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
However many units are on the line, however many people, however many cocktails, like it's a perfect scorecard. And someone questioned him on one hole. He's like, well, one thing I never get wrong is the scorecard. And then we're on like 13 and he's added up and he's like, this is wrong.
I looked back from number 13 and I'm like, I'm missing $140 somewhere. I don't know where I'm missing it. And I'm looking back and I'm like, no, yeah, it doesn't match up on 11. And I got to track it back to like number 7.
Only on SportsGrid.
The chase for 8 straight continues today for Team USA women's basketball. That would be 8 consecutive gold medals in a row at the Olympic Games. A Paris primer on this Thursday and a ton of great action to break down for you. Round number 1 of the men's golf tournament already underway. We'll show you what the leaderboard is and break down the odds in just a moment. But we start with Team USA taking on Belgium today in women's hoops. Of course, it was the Americans off to an early and easy start against Japan. They blew out the Japanese by 26 points. They covered as a 22.5-point favorite. Asia Wilson and Brianna Stewart just far too much for Japan down low. 24 points, 13 boards out of Asia Wilson. Stewie added in 22 and 8. 22.5 is the number once again in favor of the United States with a total of 165.5 now against Belgium. Donnie, will it be another emphatic victory for the U.S.?
Yeah, I do believe so. And also, keeping up with the Joneses, as we like to say. You know, Team USA women's basketball team is watching the men here handling their business. They want to do exactly the same thing because the goal is to have both of those teams on the podium raising the gold medal here while the Star-Spangled Banner does play. I expect another great performance. And also, like Belgium, great soccer, great waffles, great basketball, not so much. Not so much.
It is interesting, though. They do have a player who is currently categorized as a WNBA rookie, Julie Van Loo, who is one of the leading assist players in the WNBA that plays for the Washington Mystics. She's 31 years old. She played her college basketball at Iowa State, but of course played internationally in Europe. This is her first season in the W. She is the point guard for Belgium. 22.5 is that number. Donnie, we talked about some of the points props that caught our eye earlier for the Americans in the opener against Team Japan. The actual props themselves not listed, but we can look at what the numbers say for 20-plus points, 15-plus points, all of that good stuff. Asia Wilson, minus 166 to score 20-plus. Might be worth the bet. I would still look at somebody like Kelsey Plum, Sabrina Ionescu, plus 350, plus 520. And when the odds become available, the point guard for Las Vegas in the prop category, that being the assists, Chelsea Gray, who had 12 dimes in the opener for the U.S. against Japan, that's going to be an area I automatically circle.
Yeah, and also in the last game, Team USA did not shoot the three-point shot legitimately well. One person did. That was Ionescu at a minus 125 price today to make 2 or more three-point shots. I think that's legitimate. But also, I think you can buy low. Plum to make 2 three-point shots, plus 120. Brandon Stewart, plus 150. Asia Wilson at a plus 550 price. I look for a better performance as a team from three-point range. But I'll back Sabrina again. I think she can knock down 2 three-point shots, and I'll lay the juice at minus 125.
Had 11 points, 3 of them from 3 in the opener against Japan. There was a couple of other players outside of Stewie and Wilson that scored in double figures. BG had 11. Kelsey Plum had 11. So did Sabrina Ionescu. Of course, BG is Brittany Griner. All right, round number 1 at the men's Olympic golf tournament underway. And Hideki Matsuyama, of course, a former Masters winner representing Japan, off to a great start. 8 under at Le Golf Nacional, firing an opening round 63. And the summer of Xander continues. Xander Schauffele tied for second right now alongside Mexico's Carlos Ortiz. Both players at 6 under. Xander 6 under through his first 17 holes. One more hole to go in his opening round in a tie for second at the moment.
And the Terminator sitting there lying in wait, tied for 8th, Scotty Scheffler, a 4 under 67, round number 1, always lurking there in competition. But how about that? Matsuyama, 8 under 63. That is really impressive to get your Olympics started off in the right direction. We'll see who. Yeah. Gold, silver, and bronze. You know Scotty Scheffler is going to be in there come Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. So the odds now not out right now, at least as I see them at the Indiana FanDuel Sportsbook, but we've got the individual all-around in women's gymnastics. After a disappointing summer in Tokyo, will Simone Biles win another all-around gold medal, or will it be the reigning all-around gold medal winner for Team USA, Suni Lee? That is this afternoon, starting a little bit after noon Eastern time. For swimming finals today, the women's 200-meter breaststroke, women's 200-meter butterfly, women's 4x200-meter free relay. Katie Ledecky back in the pool, looking for her 13th Olympic medal. If she gets that, the most decorated U.S. female Olympian in the history of the Olympiad. The most medals ever. She's already got 12. She's got 8 golds. Gilbert McGregor from Sporting News joins us up next, live right here on the early line, to look back at Team USA in men's basketball and forward at women's hoops. Up next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
However many units are on the line, however many people, however many cocktails, like it's a perfect scorecard. And someone questioned him on one hole. He's like, well, one thing I never get wrong is the scorecard. And then we're on like 13 and he's added up and he's like, this is wrong.
I looked back from number 13 and I'm like, I'm missing $140 somewhere. I don't know where I'm missing it. And I'm looking back and I'm like, no, yeah, it doesn't match up on 11. And I got to track it back to like number 7.
Only on SportsGrid.
A hardwood handicap for the action in the Olympiad over in Paris, live right here on this Thursday on the early line on SportsGrid. A recap and a breakdown of yesterday's result. The American men, a perfect 2-0 in group play with a victory over South Sudan, and a preview of game number 2 for the Team USA on the women's side against Belgium later this afternoon. Gilbert McGregor from Sporting News joins us live right here on this Thursday to do all of that. Gilbert, we appreciate the time. Thanks for being here on the early line.
Absolutely. Glad to be here, Ben.
So we start with the men's action yesterday. Game number 2 of group play for Team USA against the South Sudan team that, of course, gave the Americans a big scare in that exhibition series, only losing by 1. That was the South Sudanese as a 40-plus point underdog. And yesterday, Gilbert, booked as a 28.5-point underdog. South Sudan did record the cover, 103-86. The Americans, though, improved to a perfect 2-0 over in Paris. Both wins by a comfortable margin, 17 over South Sudan, 26 over Serbia on Sunday. What is your main takeaway from win number 2 for Team USA over South Sudan?
You know, first of all, big credit to South Sudan. I thought that the 28.5-point spread was a lot, given what we've seen from that team, and they proved me right and hanging in there with Team USA. There was a time where they could have folded, and they hung around. I think that they have a chance to advance to the quarterfinals because of that. With Team USA, I see a team that's still figuring it out, still learning each other. It's important to remember that they've been together for less than 4 weeks. There are a lot of times in the half court where you see that they're still struggling a little bit to kind of learn one another. But those guys off the bench, be it Bam Adebayo, Derek White, really are stepping up and punishing other teams because nobody has the depth that Team USA has. And that's really been the difference and will continue to be the difference as they continue their pursuit for a fifth straight gold.
Gilbert, as we take a look at that game, too, we'll get into some of these statistics that these players had. A lot of players scoring in double digits, which is great to see.
Yeah.
Tatum doesn't play one game, and Embiid doesn't play the next game. Do you read anything into this, or are they just trying to get their rotations down before they get to the knockout stage?
I see a little bit of both, right? It's something good for us to be able to talk about, but it's interesting because different matchups require different rotations. And I know Steve Kerr kind of talked about the speed and athleticism of South Sudan and how that's a little bit difficult for a player like Joel Embiid. I think there's also an element of him having a checkered injury past and probably playing it safe when with respect to him and his workload out there in Paris. That being said, I do think they're still trying to figure things out and perfect that rotation. Again, Steve Kerr is learning this team on the fly as well. So, you only have 6 games to really figure it out. They have 2 down, and if they want to get to the gold medal game, it's 4 to go. So you really don't have much time to get it together. So things will seem drastic like that for sure.
Nuni Amat for South Sudan, the game's leading scorer with 24 points. The team high for Team USA actually came off the bench. That was Bam Adebayo. He had 18 points and 7 boards. Kevin Durant pouring in 14. Gilbert, the rotations have, of course, been dissected, as we are alluding to here, that Steve Kerr has led with in the Olympics, of course, in the exhibition series. But yesterday, it wasn't the starting 5. It was the bench players, led by KD, that made all the difference. What did you make of how the bench performed yesterday for Team USA?
It's kind of a continuation of a trend that we've seen from Team USA. They did it during the exhibition schedule, and even though Anthony Davis got inserted into the starting lineup, that second unit still really held serve like it did. We talk about Bam Adebayo stepping out and hitting 3-pointers, so I'm sure Heat fans are excited to see. Talk about Kevin Durant being arguably greatest player to represent Team USA in Olympic history. And again, Derek White, a guy who I expect to make every single open 3-pointer that he gets. And he's just all over the place, whether it's blocking shots, getting back tap steals. It's a very perfect utility unit that knows their roles and knows exactly how to play off of one another. And they've kind of figured out the chemistry a little bit quicker than that starting unit has. And let me not forget Anthony Edwards as well, who had big moments off the bench too.
Also, when we're taking a look at the gold medal, obviously silver medal, bronze medal, the goal is to win a medal, but Team USA obviously wants the gold overall. They're a heavy favorite at a minus 550 price right now here at the FanDuel Sportsbook. If we are looking overall, Canada, Germany, Serbia, and France, are there any teams, and we've asked this quite a bit here so far this week, has anybody impressed you so far that maybe coming into the Olympics you didn't think might be able to get to that podium? And also, any teams that you're looking at right now that you're taking a look at, Gilbert, that say, I don't know if this team's as good as I actually thought they were, maybe they get a slight downgrade?
You know what? There haven't been really any surprises as far as teams that have performed better than I expected them to perform. But I do want to double down on the support and the way that I've thought that Germany is a really good team. This is the team that won the Basketball World Cup last year. Their NBA quartet of guys, Dennis Schroeder, the Wagner brothers, and Daniel Tice, they really play well off of one another. And their non-NBA guys are really good. And these guys, you can tell they've been playing with one another for a very long time. So I think about Germany. I know Canada is the flashy pick. They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They look really good. Spain has been a little bit impressive. Santi Aldama is a guy in that Spanish national team program. They kind of get behind their one guy and push. So, there's some teams who are very strong team units that if they have a hot shooting night could upset a team that has more talent or more NBA talent.
All 12 countries in the Olympic pool in men's basketball have now completed 2 games in group play, 4 unbeatens. Canada, a perfect 2-0 in Group A to lead that group. In Group B, both the Germans and the host nation, Victor Wembanyama and France, off to a 2-0 start. And, of course, Team USA, a perfect 2-0 in Group C. Gilbert, to your point about Germany, right now a plus 130 price on the Germans to see the medal podium in men's basketball. I do like that number as of right now. Let's transition to the women's basketball tournament at the Paris Olympic Games. It is game number 2 for Team USA today against Belgium. They handled Japan in the opener, winning by 26, 102-76, even covering as a 22.5-point favorite. Same spread today, 22.5 in favor of the Americans against the Belgians. The total on the rise to 165 and a hook. What is the thing you want to see most out of Team USA today?
I want to see a better shooting effort from the team. They shot 4 of 20 from three-point range against Japan. And that really is what allowed Japan to hang around longer than people probably expected them to. Japan has a very interesting play style. They like to run, they like to shoot, and they were hitting shots, and Team USA wasn't hitting shots. But ultimately, having Asia Wilson and Breanna Stewart on the interior, 2 best players in the world, the size advantage that they give them is going to be the difference for Team USA every game. So I fully expect them to reprise that role against Belgium, but I also expect them to get going from the perimeter. This is important to note that this Belgium team only lost to Team USA by 2 a few months ago. Granted, Asia Wilson didn't play. The game was played in Belgium, but I'm sure that will be on Team USA's mind. They won't take this team lightly, and they're still figuring things out as well. So I expect them to be on a mission to kind of make a statement here as they continue to pursue gold again.
Gilbert, we expect dominance there, certainly, from both the men's and the women's team. Let me ask you this question moving forward with the women's tournament. Is there going to be a game where Team USA does not win by double digits from now right up to the gold medal game, in your opinion?
You know what, Donnie, that's a great question. I was wondering the same thing coming into this tournament, and I don't think so yet. I think the rest of the world is catching up with their WNBA talent. We're seeing a team like Germany who has numerous WNBA players, and they're making their presence felt at the Olympics. But I think that maybe 4 years from now, we'll see some closer games. The rest of the world is starting to catch up, but they're not there just yet because Team USA just has too much talent. The best, 4 or 5 players in the world are all on the same team, and that's really hard to keep up with.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Gilbert. I look forward to seeing what the spreads are in favor of the United States once we reach the medal round. Technically, their most competitive games, but Team USA a minus 3,000 favorite entering the second day of action in women's basketball to win an 8th consecutive gold medal. Something to pay attention to. Nigeria takes on the host country, France, a little bit later, really in just about a half an hour. Nigeria, 15.5-point underdog. They beat Australia outright in their Olympic opener. Keep an eye on that spread. Gilbert McGregor from Sporting News, breaking everything down in the Olympic basketball tournaments on this Thursday. Gilbert, we greatly appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Only a 5-game Major League Baseball slate, but we break down the games up next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead that they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young, pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, this team doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
However many units are on the line, however many people, however many cocktails, like it's a perfect scorecard. And he was someone questioned him on one hole. He's like, well, one thing I never get wrong is the scorecard. And then we're on like 13 and he's added up and he's like, this is wrong.
I looked back from number 13 and I'm like, I'm missing $140 somewhere. I don't know where I'm missing it. And I'm looking back and I'm like, no, yeah, it doesn't match up on 11. And I got to track it back to like number 7.
Only on SportsGrid.
A significant series starting on this Thursday in Cleveland. There's only 5 games on this Thursday around MLB. Maybe the bigs giving way to the Hall of Fame game tonight in Canton, Ohio, between the Bears and the Texans. But nonetheless, a significant set gets started on this Thursday in the land. It's the 2 top teams in the American League. Cleveland, 65-42. Now the best win percentage in Major League Baseball, and thus, of course, the American League. They have a full game advantage over the Baltimore Orioles, who are 65-44. Could this series matter at the end of the year for what ultimately determines who gets the number 1 overall seed in the American League playoff bracket? The Guardians, a very slight home favorite, -110 for this series opener, -106 on the other side for Baltimore. Those odds were an even pick'em. This virtually a pick'em, total 9.5. Who wins the first game today in Cleveland?
Last 60 days, Ben, let's take a look at the pitchers. And again, there's only 5 games on the card. 9 pitchers are qualified with at least 20 innings pitched. The worst pitcher on the card, number 9, it's Trevor Rogers. Not terrible statistics, though. An xFIP minus number of a 118. An ERA, that's not too bad, 3.48, but he does have a high xFIP number at 4.77. Now, as I said that, we're going to take the Cleveland Guardians right off the bat, Ben. Not necessarily. Take a look at Trevor Rogers. Very good against lefties, a little bit shaky against righties, but the Guardians lineup that doesn't hit all that well against left-handed pitching, because you take a look at the last 30 days. Stephen Kwan's a lefty. He's done very well against left-handed pitching, understandably, one of the better hitters in Major League Baseball. Jose Ramirez, 462 ISO power number and a weighted on base percentage of 526 over his last 30 days against left-handed pitching. Even Lane Thomas, the new acquisition, he's got a high weighted on base percentage against left-handed pitchers. Outside of that, nobody is hitting there, which means Fry, Naylor, Martinez, Jimenez, Freeman, and Rocchio expected to be in the lineup today. So that could be an addition here where you're looking for Trevor Roberts to step into a role that he fits right away against a quality team because they don't hit lefties all that well. Go over to Ben Lively. Average pitcher, you take a look at his numbers. A 104 xFIP minus, an ERA under 4, and an xFIP number of 4.31 over the past 60 days. However, I just told you Cleveland struggling with left-handed pitching. The Baltimore Orioles, Ben, not struggling at all against right-handed pitching. Here, take a look at Cowser, Henderson, Santander, O'Hearn, Mullins, and Urias here, all elevated weighted on base percentages here that can get after it. So for my money, even if I don't like the pitcher on the mound for Baltimore, I think it's a very good matchup for the pitcher for Baltimore and Rodgers. I'll go ahead and take the Baltimore Orioles in this game. I just think the matchup could be in their favor today.
Trevor Rogers, of course, making his debut for the Orioles. He was acquired on deadline day from Miami. Baltimore's won 2 straight, 4 of its last 6. Cleveland has won 3 straight and 6 of its last 8. The Guardians only played a short 2-game set in the midweek, had yesterday off because I believe a rainout. They were taking on the Tigers. They won both of those games. Detroit at home hosting the Royals. Kansas City doing what you would expect, sweeping the White Sox yesterday with a 10-3 win. Another divisional duel for both KC and Detroit, where the Royals a hefty road favorite in the Motor City. What's the play today in Detroit?
And the play is simple here. The Royals should win this game. We'll go to the pitching matchups in just a second, head-to-head. But if you take a look at Montero, 54 batters that he's faced over the past 30 days as right-handed batters, 340 ISO, 423 weighted on base percentage. He's faced a total of 71 right-handed batters on the season. Hasn't pitched all that much. That's a 369 ISO and a weighted on base percentage of 443. How does that match up against that Royals lineup, particularly the number 2 guy, Bobby Witt? 342 ISO, 565 weighted on base percentage, and a K rate of around 10% over his last 80 at-bats against right-handed pitching. He should be able to do damage today. But also, you take a look at the pitching matchups here. Kansas City, clearly the better pitcher on the mound. That's Seth Lugo. Last 60 days in Major League Baseball, how about an 84 xFIP minus, an ERA of 3.80, and a very manageable xFIP number of 3.48. I know it's expensive. It's on the road, but when we just take a look at matchups overall, it makes sense to go with Kansas City. And I'm not even downplaying that Detroit lineup, which has been getting better over the past couple weeks. But a better pitcher and a couple guys that can crush right-handed pitching, that stacks up for a Kansas City Royals dub today for me.
Yes, it absolutely does. 10 runs scored yesterday on the South Side against the White Sox, and Bobby Witt Jr. did not have an RBI, but was 2 for 3 at the dish, drew 2 walks, scored 3 runs. Our guy, Vinny P., the Pasquatch Pasquantino, 3 ribbies yesterday. Kansas City, now at 60 wins. I feel great, thanks to Craig Mish, about the over of my preseason win total bet on KC at 73.5. 60 wins for the Royals this year, Donnie. They only won 56 games all of last year. We talked about the Ace Affair underway today at Wrigley. Shota Imanaga gets the start for Chicago. Sonny Gray on the other side for St. Louis. It's a virtual pick'em inside the friendly confines and this divisional duel. What's the play?
Some you might be saying that Sonny Gray could be getting a little bit unlucky because theoretically, number one on the card over the past 60 days out of those 9 pitchers today, Ben, that's Sonny Gray. An xFIP minus number of 70, an ERA that's close to 5, but an xFIP number of 2.82. Now, let's go back to June 29th here for Sonny Gray. 4 1/3 innings pitched, 6 runs. 5 innings pitched, 5 runs against the Nationals a week later. Versus the Cubs, 7 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. That's very good, but then bounces right back up. The Braves, 7 innings pitched, which you like, 5 earned runs you don't. Last start against the Nationals, 5 innings pitched, 5 earned runs, leaking oil for Sonny Gray. So if we're just being simple in this, you say, Donnie, don't you just test those analytical numbers? Sometimes you have to line up equally when you're looking at both sides because Sonny Gray, even though he has those great xFIP numbers, you take a look at his true numbers, ISO power numbers against his last 105 batters combined, 237. Way too elevated for me. Weighted on base percentage. You want that number as a pitcher around 320 or less. He's sitting at 391. Give me Imanaga. Give me that slight price at home. I'll take the Cubs here due to a pitcher that should be pitching much better than he is. We're just not getting the results out of Sonny Gray.
Of course, Shota Imanaga, in his first year in MLB, came on like a barnstormer, but then started to struggle. 7 earned runs given up in his final start in May, and the 5 starts he made in June, 17 total earned runs allowed. But in July, 4 starts, only 7 earned runs allowed. He is 8-2 this year with a 2.95 ERA. DRS, before you go and host the money line, what's the Hall of Fame game best bet?
Kickoff return for a touchdown, which you cannot bet. So sit back and relax, enjoy that game, and just watch. Take those notes, people. Take the notes.
If we see a kickoff return TD, I think that leads us to an over. Donnie right side. Have fun on the money line. Talk to you tomorrow on the early line. More TEL next.
Hopefully they learned their lesson. Hey, this ain't the NBA, bro. You don't have 6 fouls, and they will check you on this stuff. And Brooks has a reputation coming into this. You can tell the refs are watching them, and they were on him all the time.
This was 10, 12 years ago. Canada playing Greece with that type of lead if they had. They probably would have mentally crumbled and lost that game to Greece by 3 or 4 points in the final minute of that ball game.
Sports Rage Late Night, only on SportsGrid.
Where are you at in terms of a starting lineup, what you want to see from Team USA?
I think he'll get guys involved, and then there's your lockdown defender at the point guard, the point of attack, right? I do like Curry. I would then go with Ant. I like Ant over Booker. I think if you look at the way the Canada game was, they looked kind of slow starting, and then they kind of got rolling.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
That race for the Cy Young pretty much as equally compelling and intriguing as the race for the wild card spots in the National League.
And also keep in mind, Skeen doesn't pitch the entire season, so his ERA gets affected much, much more if he has a poor outing than, let's just say, Chris Sale or Zach Wheeler that's been there all season long. This would be a fun one to watch it play out, but the big loser last night were the Phillies and Zach Wheeler.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
However many units are on the line, however many people, however many cocktails, like it's a perfect scorecard. And he was, someone questioned him on one hole. He's like, well, one thing I never get wrong is the scorecard. And then we're on like 13 and he's added up and he's like, this is wrong.
I looked back from number 13 and I'm like, I'm missing $140 somewhere. I don't know where I'm missing it. And I'm looking back and I'm like, no, yeah, it doesn't match up on 11. And I got to track it back to like number 7.
Only on SportsGrid.
So we have showed you 3 of the 5 games that are on display today on a short card on this Thursday in Major League Baseball. Here are the other 2. The Braves taking the final 2 games of their series against the Milwaukee Brewers. They've won 4 of their last 5. Now only 6.5 games back of Philadelphia for the top spot in the National League East. And with Charlie Morton, the veteran, on the bump today, a $2 favorite against a Marlins team that I'm pretty sure Craig Mish is lining up today in left field. The over-under is 8.5. Atlanta back at home, but still, as we saw yesterday, just trickling over a total of 7.5 in Milwaukee, courtesy of the second home runs of the game for both Matt Olson and Travis d'Arnaud went over, but still the only team in MLB with an under percentage of 60% of their games or more this year. How about bad versus bad to round out this group of 5? I personally need the Halos to be a little bit worse than they are. The Angels have won 6 of their last 10, 14 games below 500, 47 and 61. The Rockies, the worst team in the National League at 39 and 70. They face off for a weekend set starting today in Colorado. Minus 118 is that number in favor of Anaheim, or the Angels in Anaheim at home. Not a weekend set, the 4th and final game of this series. It's Colorado won yesterday 2-1. Haven't paid a lot of attention to the Halos or the Rocks, I'm sorry to say. But I've got a 72.5 win total to the under on L.A. this year. All right, today, a celebratory day, as we have shared, for a multitude of reasons. Casey Hudson works at the SportsGrid Network now. It is August, which means college football will be played this month. And a National Football League game is tonight. The Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio, to kick off the preseason between Chicago and Houston. The Texans, a 1.5-point favorite against the Bears. Pretty similar on the money line. Minus 130 for Houston, plus 110 for the Bears. The total dropped by a point, 31.5 to 30 and a hook. The last 2 years, we have seen 38 points and 37 points. As it pertains to this total in the last 10 Hall of Fame games, even split. 5 overs, 5 unders. I happen to think we see some points. And as my co-host, Donnie Rightside, said right before he signed off to go host the Money Line, his best bet is a kickoff return touchdown tonight. If you've been watching football the last 15 years, you're probably like, what? Kickoff return touchdown. If you're watching football the last few years in the National Football League, you're probably like, what? Donnie, they barely even return kicks, let alone have a score off of it. The last season, last year in 2023, only 21% of kicks on kickoffs were even returned. So the NFL, that has favored safety, and rightfully so, in its kickoff rules the last half decade plus, has made a change to their kickoff rules for 2024. I will try to explain them as simply as I can without any visual displays here on the early line. If you're listening on the radio, I do apologize. But it's the main focus, perhaps, of an insignificant game for the overall results around the National Football League. The new kickoff rules tonight in Canton. Here's how it works. The kicker will still kick from his own 35-yard line. But instead of the kickoff team, the kicking team, the defenders being alongside him at the 35, they now line up across midfield on the receiving team's 40-yard line. Nobody can move until the ball is struck, until the kick is off and the kicker hits it from his own 35. The receiving team has 9 players lined up in what they are calling the setup zone, anywhere from their own 30 to 35-yard line. Various formations allowed there, but you need 9 guys at least in that area, 7 in between the hashes. Then you have your 2 returners that line up in what the National Football League is calling the landing zone, where the kick needs to land. Now, there are various aspects of this. What happens if the kick lands short of the landing zone? It's like a kickoff going out of bounds, a penalty taken back to the 40-yard line. What if it lands in the end zone? A touchback to the 30. What if it lands in the landing zone, is not recovered, trickles into the end zone, a touchback when it is down to the 25-yard line? But if the ball lands in the landing zone, the return team has to return it. There is no taking a knee in that area. There is no calling for a fair catch. But because the defense cannot take off until the ball is struck, you don't get the running start. You don't get coming downfield at 100 miles per hour trying to take somebody's head off. Safety is still prioritized. In all 3 phases that coaches love to say, offense, defense, and special teams, now back in the National Football League. I'm Ben. Donnie will be back. We'll be back tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern time on a Friday on the Early Line.